What's poppin' T Squad? It's me, Keisha, and I am here with my Exposing Vince McMahon series video part 2. Let's pick up exactly where we left off on part 1. Let's get it. Let's go. Notwithstanding the issues detailed above, Miss Grant took her employment seriously. In contrast, McMahon continued a pattern of sending sexually charged messages throughout the work week. Certain employment depended on her continued appeasement of and obedience to McMahon and believing she needed McMahon's protection from the suspicious corporate officer number 4 and others. Miss Grant felt no choice but to respond in kind. From all this, Miss Grant began to experience debilitating panic attacks in the office on a nearly daily basis that left her physically drained. She could not hide the physical symptoms of these attacks and texted resident manager, "You should see the way people look at me when I'm having an attack." But while her coworkers noticed, no one dared get involved. McMahon's coercive control taxes to sexualize and dehumanize Miss Grant. In the summer of 2019, McMahon's presence was all-consuming in Miss Grant's life. In the office, she felt monitored as she was surrounded by allies of McMahon, which led to continued daily panic attacks. Outside the office, McMahon sexualized her entirely. He no longer referred to her as a friend and largely stopped talking to Miss Grant outside of schmexting and fantasy talk. Any non-sexual texts related to life and or work were either ignored or given token responses like okay or yup. As detailed herein, McMahon was adamant about having Miss Grant and him McMahon was adamant about having Miss Grant send him explicit photographs, impressing upon her that it was part of her sexuality. Given the control that McMahon had over Miss Grant's employment, she felt compelled to comply and sent the explicit photographs to McMahon's mobile device. Miss Grant was routinely assured that the photographs she was providing to McMahon were to remain private and were part of their secret world. McMahon began to degrade Miss Grant, calling her his biznai, while hinting at a fascination with having other people watch them engage in sexual activity. Additionally, the complaint details encounters during which McMahon caused Miss Grant to sustain physical injuries, including bleeding and pain from forceful use of schmex toys. Despite Miss Grant's pleas to cease any further sexual activity, the number of sexual encounters increased, as did McMahon's physical aggression during them. This is sick. This is so sick. So sick, you dirty old cow. Gross. Notably, McMahon was most aggressive when using the certain schmex toys named after male WWE wrestlers and performers. McMahon named the schmex toys so that the color of the toy matched the race of the wrestler. For example, a black schmildo would be named after an African-American wrestler, and white schmildos would be named after a Caucasian wrestler. In addition to McMahon's infatuation with pretending that other men, and namely certain WWE talent, were in the room with them, this was yet another incremental step in desensitizing Miss Grant to his fantasy and eventual demands that she perform sexual acts for and or have sexual contact with others within WWE. Yo, this is insanity. I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say, child. Let's continue. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. During a David versus Goliath type wrestling match in 2019, Miss Grant shared with McMahon her thoughts on the event, the draw of rooting for the underdog, and ideas for future events. McMahon complimented her creative input. She believed she was being taken seriously, that is, until McMahon named a Schmildo after the smaller wrestler and attempted to schmexualize the situation, diminishing her input. By fall of 2019, McMahon frequently pressed for schmornographic videos and more explicit content. When Miss Grant expressed apprehension with his request, McMahon responded with assurances that she could trust him, or questioned why she didn't trust him. McMahon also took care to remind Ms. Grant of his power and influence, such as by flaunting a meeting with the Saudi crown prince in October 2019. McMahon tightens his grip on Ms. Grant and discredits her doctor, replacing him with one of McMahon's choosing. That's what Diddy did to Cassie. Girl. Woo! In addition to her panic attacks, Miss Grant began experiencing increasingly severe physical, mental, and emotional symptoms, including sleep disruption, dizziness, exhaustion, rashes, weight loss, hair loss, and migraines. In November 2019, Ms. Grant informed McMahon that her doctor suggested her symptoms stemmed from trauma and ongoing stress. McMahon mocked her emotional trauma, my arse. However, on November 20th, 2019, McMahon insisted that Ms. Grant see a physician of his choosing. This physician is referred to herein as Celebrity Doctor, and the facility that Celebrity Doctor operated from is referred to herein as Alternative Clinic. McMahon and Celebrity Doctor assured Grant that her bills at Alternative Clinic would be taken care of under McMahon's account. After the initial visit, it became apparent to Ms. Grant that McMahon and Celebrity Doctor wanted Ms. Grant to remain in the care of the Celebrity Doctor's practice, and Ms. Grant felt pressure to do so. Celebrity Doctor made comments about how Celebrity Doctor / they referring to McMahon and Alternative Clinic, had saved her life, and Celebrity Doctor often remarked how Ms. Grant was unable to even make eye contact with Celebrity Doctor during their initial sessions, an obvious sign of trauma. Miss Grant acknowledged having a relationship with McMahon during visits with Celebrity Doctor, who gave little reaction, save telling her there were many different paths to God and love. Girl, what? Why she wasn't suing this doctor too? Celebrity Doctor lavished attention, treatments, and products on Miss Grant, all of which were paid for under McMahon's account. Miss Grant was never provided with any receipts. When Miss Grant inquired about certain treatments provided, Celebrity Doctor challenged her on whether she trusted Celebrity Doctor and postured that if she didn't trust Celebrity Doctor, then we should part ways right now. And will, like, excuse you, at the outset of her care with Celebrity Doctor, each session lasted up to 1 hour. Miss Grant would leave feeling exhausted from Celebrity Doctor's deep dives into her personal and work life as a coach focused on behavioral science. So he a doctor and a therapist? Girl, what? In 2019, McMahon voices concerns about rumors, then publicly exploits her and Miss Grant's desperate attempt to leave WWE. On January 30th, 2020, WWE issued a press release announcing that the company's co-president George Barros and Michelle Wilson were departing the company and would no longer serve on its board of directors. A significant drop in WWE's stock price followed. The company announced that Frank Riddick III, a member of board of directors for more than 11 years, would be interim chief financial officer and report directly to McMahon. On February 3rd, 2020, McMahon sent a message to Miss Grant advising he had been informed by WWE corporate officer number 2 that there were a lot of rumors circulating about McMahon and Miss Grant. McMahon warned Miss Grant that rumors were not good for either of them. Then, on February 10th, 2020, without any advance warning, Miss Grant was temporarily relocated to the XFL workforce. Miss Grant, having been desperate to escape the feeling of being trapped in her existence at WWE, applied to remain with the XFL on March 6, 2020. She openly vocalized her desire to remain with XFL to colleagues, even referring to her state of work at WWE as nothingness, and she sought permission to make the change official from WWE employee number 1 and corporate officer number 4 before informing McMahon. Days after this, during which time she had finally told McMahon about her application to remain with the XFL, her request was denied. In the weeks that followed, despite McMahon's warning about rumors and direction to Miss Grant to play dumb, he began showing explicit photos of Miss Grant to people both inside and outside the company. I need to know who. On March 26, 2020, McMahon sent a lengthy message to Miss Grant describing in detail the circumstances surrounding sharing explicit photographs of Miss Grant to a former WWE referee, referred to herein as WWE referee. McMahon described how WWE referee left to and told Miss Grant she had made a perfect stranger very happy. Miss Grant initially dismissed this as more fantasy talk, believing that McMahon would not actually do such a reckless thing. But when she voiced apprehension about McMahon sharing naked photos of her with someone she did not know, McMahon's response was not to comfort her, but to assure of WWE referees' loyalty to him. This sharing of explicit photos terrified Miss Grant as it illustrated McMahon's sheer lack of self-control, and it further panicked her that these private and intimate photos, which included her face, were being shared with complete strangers. On March 30th, 2020, McMahon enthusiastically messaged Miss Grant that WWE referee had showed a friend a naked photo of Miss Grant, which marked the beginning of McMahon sharing Miss Grant's naked pictures with others who he acknowledged to share with their friends. On March 31st, 2020, Ms. Grant expressed concerns to McMahon that she had no intention of having schmecks with these strangers and requested McMahon make that message clear, as she felt threatened and distressed by the responses her pictures were getting. She made clear that she did not want any perception of her moving beyond the point of mere fantasy. Shortly after, McMahon surprised Miss Grant with news that he had protected her job from a furlough that WWE would imminently announce. The furlough affected a large number of employees, and McMahon emphasized that he personally made sure that she would not be one of them, reinforcing her dependency on him, particularly after a majority of the support staff in the legal department, all hired prior to Miss Grant, were furloughed. McMahon became the most important figure in Miss Grant's life as he maliciously asserted power and control over almost every aspect of it. Miss Grant's fears intensified over the consequences that could result from McMahon's actions, particularly by sharing her naked pictures. She became paranoid, completely dependent on, and worshipfully devoted to McMahon. He in turn pressed forward in exerting his power over Miss Grant as he saw fit. McMahon recruits other men and forces Miss Grant into schmecks. In May 2020, McMahon had recruited an individual whom he manipulatively referred to as his friend to engage in a with McMahon and Miss Grant. The friend turned out to be McMahon's physical therapist at Alternative Clinic and is referred to herein as physical therapist. To induce Miss Grant's participation in the threesome, McMahon began referring to Miss Grant as his girlfriend and sent her a large bouquet of flowers. Nevertheless, on May 8th, 2020, Miss Grant expressed apprehension about participating in the threesome. In response, McMahon insisted that the plans were already made and suggested he would lose a friendship if she did not go through with it. So at this point, it's been a year since all of this has been going on. Wow. On the day of the threesome, on May 9th, 2020, Ms. Grant showed up to the condo but reiterated that she did not want to go through with the act. She expressed fear of being thrown around like a rag doll by McMahon and physical therapists. After Ms. Grant clearly stated she wanted to back out, McMahon responded by telling Ms. Grant for the first time that he loved her, stunning her into silence. It's given me very much she had feelings for him too. Let's continue. McMahon manipulative tactic resulted in the outcome he wanted. So this is why I'm saying, like, it's obvious, like, she had feelings for him. Not saying that what he was doing is right, of course, but let's continue. And he led her down the stairs to the bedroom where physical therapist was already waiting to begin the threesome. So I'm expecting that this was another man. Early in the encounter, McMahon immediately directed Miss Grant to lay down on her back in a supplicating position. While straddling over her, McMahon You're lying. 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 No, you're lying. What? While straddling over her, McMahon defecated on Miss Grant's head. Okay, I know I'm not dumb, but I just need I can't even talk. I need defecating. I just need to know if I know it's boo-boo, but could it mean pee? No. It's feces. It's human pee. Means to pass solid waste. Okay, I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew I wasn't crazy. I just had to make sure that that was what I was reading. And it was. He defecated on her forehead. That was a part of the other man wanted to see that? Or was it just like another form of dehumanizing her, belittling her, showing that she had no power? Wow. Let's continue. McMahon left to shower off, but he instructed Miss Grant to remain in place with excrement in her hair and to continue performing for his friend. Who gets off on that? Who want to smell that? Yo, wow. That ain't even kinky. That's vile and like literally sick. That is sick. That is sick, bro. Like that is, oh my God. While Miss Grant requested protection, none was offered. McMahon and physical therapists actively continued with and directed Miss Grant's sexual performance for around an hour and a half while she was left covered in feces. I know it's a term for this, that like people do get off from like humiliating people. Like it's like a kink for them. Like following on May 11, 2020, McMahon sent an explicit message to Miss Grant that further detailed his fantasies of seeing her engage in sexual relations. And they have the text. Let's read it. It says, "I love it. That's you, Janelle. You just can't get enough, can you? In the future, it's going to be so bad that you'll demand to be effed twice a day, and not just with blank in a three-way. Why not let others see the beautiful, voluptuous body and watch you shake uncontrollably when they'll go out of their minds. Then I'll find more friends and we'll tie you up so you're helpless. I'll direct them to have their way any way they want. Who can make you scream the loudest? Maybe I'll just line them up and have them squirt in your mouth, your vajayjay all over your boobs and butt, all at the same time. You'll be covered in, and we'll make you eat it all and taste everybody's. The next morning, you'll be a little sore, but you're still going to want more after all that effing over and over." Did he like Vince McMahon is like 100 years old? Like, if you don't sit down somewhere and go to bed and drink some Geritol, oh my God. McMahon then pressured Miss Grant into several additional threesomes, in large part because she felt she had no other choice, particularly after McMahon comments that he had personally ensured that she had not lost her job. Her subsequent run-ins with physical therapists at alternative clinic also served as a reminder of how much was at stake if she did not obey. McMahon controlled Miss Grant's employment, income, paid for her medical care, circulated naked pictures of her, and ignored her lack of consent for the first threesome. Indeed, when text conversations would begin to cross over from McMahon's fantasies into reality, Miss Grant often attempted to avoid physical encounters with physical therapists, as on September 23rd, 2020, when she told McMahon there was no room for a third body. After McMahon became more sadistic, and his fantasies focused on control, such as sensory deprivation, pain, humiliation, and group scenarios in which Miss Grant was to be physically overwhelmed and subservient. This is another text message that was sent from him to her. It says, "Read your last picture. You need your underwear ripped off and 3 big black Peter Weeders in all 3 at the same time. Weigh up your vajayjay and weigh up your booty as far as they will go, but even farther. And the thickest Peter Weeder goes down your throat, so it makes you gag and convulse as those big black Peter Weeders pound away. It feels like from the start you're being schmalted, but it's made you orgasm nonstop. Just one continuous constant orgasm. And just before you pass out, those big black Peter Weeders squirt their loads of inside you. As you lay on your stomach, is coming out of all your holes. I'll turn you over and off all over you." So he want to be a black man. He want to be Kofi Kingston. He want to be The Rock. He want to be Montez Ford. Oh, wow. He want to be a part of the New Day. Child, I cannot. Whew. On one occasion, he instructed Miss Grant, do not knock on the door, because if I see you, I will bape you in the hallway. To leave no doubt regarding the dynamic of their relationship, on May 12, 2020, McMahon texted Miss Grant, I'm the only one who owns you and controls who I want to F you. A theme that was often reiterated throughout their involvement. On June 17, 2020, Miss Grant sent texts to McMahon noting her 1-year anniversary in joining WWE. McMahon ignored her. Yeah, y'all was in a relationship at this point. Like a month later, McMahon reminded Miss Grant about the far-reaching results of his texting out explicit content of her. By now, thousands of men see you every day all over the world. They all want to F you. Around this time, McMahon openly shared explicit photographs and salacious stories about Miss Grant with WWE crew at TV tapings, a group McMahon also referred to as her fan club. Indeed, McMahon exuberantly messaged her a truthful story of having just shared explicit content of her with a group of 12 men on the WWE tech crew and recounted the obscene details he shared with them. And this is more text message proof. So he texts her, I just passed my phone around to a bunch of guys on the tech crew. They were screaming, OMG, she's effing beautiful. Look at that butt. I like to get that. I paused to count out loud how many guys there were. 12. I then said, okay, there's 12 of you, and she would love to F each and every one of you at one time. The guys cheered, but she will only do it if she takes 3 at the time. That brought a huge reaction. She wants one deep in her butt, one way down her throat, and one in her vajayjay, and you can pound her and keep on pounding her till you pop your load. She may scream and try to say no, although it would be difficult to say anything with a Peter Weeder down your throat. They laughed. I then said, listen, no matter what, just pound away till you... Baby, these guys were having a blast with me. Some of them didn't believe me. So I said, you were the greatest F in the world. And no matter how much you get, you always wanted more. And then I said, she loves the white stuff. Baby, these techs, as we call them, were having the time of their lives listening to my truthful story. I then said you would take a 10-minute break between each effing, but then you would get back on your hands and knees with your butt in the air and say, okay, I'm ready. Who's next? LOL. I drove them wild, baby. Or I should say you drove them wild. Just imagine if this really happened, baby. How much white stuff you would have coming out of your holes. On the occasion when Miss Grant informed McMahon that she was physically injured during their sexual encounters, McMahon's responses varied from apologies to non-accountable pushback and blaming impulse control. When encounters were particularly brutal, Miss Grant learned to bookend the truth of her injuries with compliments to create the least amount of pushback from McMahon. However, Miss Grant sustained brutal and painful injuries, including bleeding, swelling, bruises, and spans of incontinence resulting from McMahon's forceful use of his fist, adult toys, and objects unsafe for vaginal insertion or penetration. For instance, on August 28, 2020, Ms. Grant texted McMahon that she was injured during their latest sexual encounter. As a result of McMahon's insistence on penetrating Ms. Grant with extra large schmex toys, including a vibrating wand that caused her to panic, McMahon ignored Ms. Grant's warning that the device was not meant for insertion and forcibly shoved the wand inside of her so deeply that it became stuck for a period. Oh my God. He's talking about a bippity boppity boop wand. She texted she was in pain and bleeding a lot between last night and today, and I'm on the floor right now because I can't get comfortable. And on August 29th, 2020, she texted him an update that she was still really uncomfortable. I got hurt in so many ways I'm having trouble describing. McMahon did apologize, saying that sometimes I just get carried away. Then McMahon recruits Laurinaitis into his exploitation of Miss Grant and transfers her into Laurinaitis' department at WWE, trafficking and SMEX acts at WWE headquarters. During this time, Miss Grant became so sick from the stress of situations that McMahon had subjected her to that her weight plummeted to just over 100 pounds, which McMahon ignored. One distressing event occurred on November 21st, 2020, when McMahon drove Miss Grant to WWE headquarters to fulfill his fantasy of having a sexual encounter with her in the office, causing Miss Grant to suffer a panic attack in the passenger seat while pleading with McMahon to change his mind and drive her back home. McMahon scoffed and then gave her an ultimatum: either have a sexual encounter in his office or inside the parked car. Terrified, Miss Grant obeyed McMahon's directions and they entered WWE headquarters for the encounter. Further, despite Miss Grant's repeated statements that she did not consent to threesomes with McMahon and physical therapists, McMahon advertised her to others and told her that he had found another person to join them, defended John Laurinaitis. In November 2020, McMahon pressed Miss Grant to make their explicit photos and videos. Pressed Miss Grant to make explicit photos and videos to send Laurinaitis. McMahon orchestrated exchanges by instructing Miss Grant when to create explicit content for Laurinaitis, including what to say, and provided her with notes to adjust her performance. This ain't a stage play, sir. What? McMahon then facilitated the exchange of explicit content back and forth between Miss Grant and Laurinaitis. Notably, even once phone numbers were exchanged between Miss Grant and Laurinaitis, McMahon insisted that he be privy to any messages that Miss Grant sent to Laurinaitis and demanded that she report back about all interactions, further illustrating the level of control he held over Miss Grant. On or December 29, 2020, was arranged between McMahon, Laurinaitis, and Miss Grant at McMahon's condo. McMahon instructed her to tell Laurinaitis that she was a neighbor and girlfriend working in the legal field, but not at WWE. Shortly after meeting Laurinaitis, Miss Grant asked him if she was the first woman whom McMahon had introduced him to in such a setting. Laurinaitis failed to respond and shot a look directly at McMahon, who quickly intervened by kissing Miss Grant and initiating the sexual encounter amongst the three of them. Once again, Miss Grant asked for protection. Once again, her request was denied after an assurance that Laurinaitis was clean. In the days that followed, McMahon texted her that Laurinaitis hugged me like a bear and said thank you to me about 12 times already. In contrast, Laurinaitis messaged Miss Grant, "Thanks for the fun afternoon." Now, let me just give some context on John Laurinaitis. Like I said, he's married to the Bella twins' mother. The Bella twins' mother, around, I want to say this was around 2018, 2019, suffered from Bell palsy. Is that Bell's palsy when your face gets stuck? And she had a brain issue. She had to have brain surgery. So like literally since then, like her face has been like stuck like this. And she was a very beautiful woman and all those things. So I can very well see him cheating on her. And when he said that, you know, he was thanking him and giving him hugs 12 times. And I can see that. I can see that because he probably lost physical attraction to the Bella twins' mom, which once again still does not mean that this is okay. It's sickening, but like I can so see this. I can so see this. And the Bella twins, by the way, came out with a statement the other day saying they do not stand by, agree with anything that was accused of McMahon and Laurinaitis, and that they stand with the victims. I don't know why the mama still married to this man, why she ain't divorced him. I don't know what's going on with that. But girl, get your life. Woo, child. I am emotionally distraught after that. I will be back tomorrow with part 3 of Exposing Vince McMahon. We got so much more to go over and discuss. This is mind-blowing, okay? Let's talk about what we have learned in part 1 and 2 already, honey. And woo, let's talk about it. Make sure to thumbs up this video, like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell button, you guys. I love you, and I'll see you on the next video.